Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily news television show broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels.
We are proud to announce that YouTube has recognized Queer News Tonight, certified by analytics company vidIQ, as the world's most popular LGBTQ streaming news show. Our queer news stories have reached over 10 million views.
We are proud that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ brand in Florida. We thank you for watching and supporting our voice in the LGBTQ community.
There is no other news program in the world like Queer News Tonight.
It is Monday, April 7th, and we are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we'll tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Welcome to the world's most important LGBTQ plus evening news show. Hotspots Magazine Happening Out Television Network is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ plus community.
Our nonprofit mission is to support the 11 pillars of our LGBTQ community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our diverse community.
We are part of one of the world's largest LGBTQ nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
In 2025, our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ plus experience. And Queer News Tonight is celebrating our 5th anniversary with more than 10,000 LGBTQ plus television stories. We will produce the 25th anniversary of our Stonewall Pride Parade and the festival on June 14th. We present Pride Feet in August and Pride for Lauderdale in February. Our magazine, events, television news, talk and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBT and broader community.
In 2025, more than 100 community leader anchors will host this show to support the LGBTQ plus community. Let's meet today's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome my brother from another mother. His name is Von Biggs. Look at that brooch. Look at that brooch. Awesome brooch action right there. He's a community outreach coordinator at Holy Cross Health. He's a vice chair of the Ryan White Part A Planning Council and a founding board member of Trans Ed. So Von, Holy Cross is always doing big things, and we say thank you so much for everything that you do. And so Holy Cross is joining with a healing music event on Sistrunk on May 10th. Tell me what's happening.
That's right, Faye. Holy Cross Health will participate in a Salute to Percussions, music to soothe the soul and heal the community on Saturday, May 10th from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Smitty's on Sistrunk in Fort Lauderdale. This powerful community event blends the rhythms of live percussion music with vital conversations about health. Attendees will have the opportunity to engage with leading experts on diabetes, kidney disease, and HIV while addressing the stigma that surrounds these conditions. Holy Cross, along with other local health advocates, aim to create a safe space for learning, dialogue, and healing through the arts. The event invites people of all ages to enjoy uplifting performances while accessing potentially life-saving information. For additional details and updates, visit hivpossible.com. You know, the event planner is Sean Tinsley, and she's a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine. She's also on the planning council. She's very involved, specifically for our Black HIV community, for cisgender women. And she's been organizing this, and she's so excited to be able to bring something like this to the area. And when you think about the area of Sistrunk, I mean, the things that have happened in that area, I mean, a number of years ago, our health department pulled the only clinic out of that area. Luckily, you know, Holy Cross, we have a clinic now that's inside what is that? I can't think of what the building's called, right there on Sistrunk. But it's great to see that it's a walking community. So when people want to go someplace, they walk everywhere. They don't take transit. So it's great that they're going to be there, that we're going to have percussion instruments and bands and having actual time for people to talk and learn from doctors and experts. Because as we know, medical stigma is a real thing and people sometimes don't engage, but if you can do it in a fun way, then hopefully, we'll bring some important news to them.
Well, I mean, I love Sistrunk. It's such a cute little area, right? And every time that somebody tries to do an event there or do a festival there, I'm always hoping that it really catches on, that it takes off, because it's such a cute little warehouse area, So I love that you guys are doing this. And then the percussion aspect of it, everybody loves pam 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 pa pa pa. Know your status. Pa 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 pa. What's your sugar today?
Yeah.
Are you performing there?
Just saying, whatever it takes to make people want to check those things. You know what I mean? Our health, you can't help anybody. You can't fight the fight if you're sick.
Right.
That's just it.
A lot of topics can be scary for people to talk about, and this lightens it up. Instead of going into a room where everybody's sitting down, you open the door, everybody turns around and looks at you. There is music, so it livens people up and makes them feel more welcomed.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. And it's the afternoon, so you can grab your friends and go there and still make it over to the Wilton Drive for happy hour.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yes.
I'm always planning your evenings out for you. That is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing. And Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the Healing Music event on Sistrunk. Let's welcome back anchor William Haas. Grrr! I love him so much. So Will is a bi-coastal real estate professional and is the past president of South Florida's most popular gay social club, the Bears of South Florida. I don't know how he's the past president because he does still everything and goes to every single event, all right? So William, the Pride Center at Equality Park's After Dark Fun Night Market is on May 15th. Tell me what's happening.
First of all, Night Bears. Equality Park After Dark, a curated monthly market, returns on May 15th from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., held at the newly renovated plaza in Equality Park. The event features food trucks, handmade crafts, vintage finds, art, music, clothes, and local vendors. Guests can pursue a variety of offerings from local businesses, artists, and craftsmen. The market provides a vibrant space to eat, shop, and socialize, making it a fun destination for friends. Family and pets also. The event takes place every third Thursday of the month. Welcome everyone to join the excitement. For more details, visit pridecenterflorida.org. I'm telling you, this is a great idea. I mean, I always go holiday shopping early. I go to these events and I find, something special for somebody versus going to a major box store. And they have great food and drinks, and it is some place just to, purvey around and just see what you can find.
Listen, we all got too comfortable with giving Bezos all our money. Okay, to being able to go on Amazon and order something one day to another. We all got too comfortable with that, all right? We got to stop making these millionaires more money. We do, and we need to support our mom and pop and local places. At this event, Robert Boo makes sure, I love you, Robert, right? That, all the people are selling their own things that they've crafted and made themselves. Doggy things, collars, food. I've gotten jelly there. You never know what you're going to find there.
They had teas last time I was there. I mean, all kinds of different.
And the talent. I mean, all the different arts and stuff. They're just amazing.
It's also very important to support local businesses, and then, to have that in a safe space, an LGBTQ plus space that we can just, come together.
Right? And it gets no safer than the Pride Center. I mean, how perfect is that, right?
Exactly.
But the nighttime, the lights at night, just kind of being out and
and
fresh
it's not
air.
so hot. It's not so hot. You go with your dog. You network. Maybe you pick up a little cute little boy or girl, or they, them, while you're there. You never know. Oh, you like jelly too? And you just never know.
Jelly's your jam.
Jelly's your jam. I got your jelly. So that is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. And we look forward to seeing you at the Pride Center at Equality Park After Dark Night Market on May 15th. Next up at the table for the first time, Angel Martinez. So Angel is a passionate mental health advocate and policy change enthusiast from Miami. A proud Cuban-Nicaraguan American, he champions LGBTQIA plus causes and the Stonewall movement with humor, drive, and a fierce dedication to justice. So Angel, seniors will celebrate love and friendship at SunServe's SilverServe Luncheon on May 9th. Tell me what's happening.
Yeah, Faye. SunServe is hosting its next SilverServe Luncheon on Friday, May 9th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at either Hagen Park Community Center or Island Reserve City Park. This lively senior-focused event brings older adults together to connect, share stories, and enjoy a heartwarming celebration. Organized as a free mixer, the event offers complimentary parking and RSVP, creating an accessible and welcoming environment for all. SunServe, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting South Florida's LGBTQ+ community and senior populations, continues to foster community through monthly gatherings like SilverServe. For more details and to RSVP, attendees can visit sunserve.org. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just important, you know, for the older LGBTQ+ population to have these welcoming spaces, to have these opening spaces. A lot of them are, you know, some of them in other cities, right, are in the closet and say that they don't have these mixers, they don't have these events to kind of socialize and gather together.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times our seniors feel so isolated by themselves, and this makes people want to come out and do stuff. And it's a really big problem.
I remember a couple months ago, before the SunServe Gala, they had a kickoff. Me and Vaughn were both there, and I met one of the ladies who goes and is part of SilverServe, and she said that she had lost her husband like a year before and was not leaving the house and didn't want to be around people and didn't even know how to get back out there to socialize, and that somebody had brought her to a SilverServe luncheon, and like now she's got girlfriends, and like I'm getting goosebumps because just like something so little as just fellowship, right? Like that's all we want. Nobody wants our elders, after everything that they've been through, to be alone.
Right.
They're still gay. We're still family. They still have all the fun stories and all the great quirky jokes, and we want to still like have those live on, right? I mean, and it's good for their mental health as well. I know that that's important. That's your platform, Angel, and that's like, you know, one of those things that like I love that SunServe is doing this. You know, who are most affected? Kids and seniors.
Right.
And we've seen, and you've kind of hit on it, Will, is that, you know, a lot of our LGBTQ seniors and elders, they do become isolated to the point that they don't want to get out because in some cases they don't feel like they belong.
Right.
And we see that happening more and more and more, and having events like this gets them out in the community. So if you know someone that needs to be there, take them.
Go, I mean, it's no secret that there is horrible ageism in our community, okay? That needs to freaking stop.
Yeah.
It needs to stop.
It really does, you know, because again, we wouldn't be here without the shoulders that we stand on, and those are our elders. So if you know somebody that should be at this luncheon, make sure that you go pop into sunserve.org and get them a spot there for sure. And that is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. And we look forward to seeing you at SunServe's SilverServe luncheon on May 10th.
And of course, let's welcome tonight's lead anchor, my sister, FayWhat. She is a legendary events host, television and radio personality, and host of Hotspots Happening Out's The FayWhat Show. Faye, Lauderdale Tropical Bear Week brings to all the men I have effed before on April 10th. Tell me what's happening.
Can I tell you that I'm super excited about Lauderdale Tropical Bear Week? And I know that sounds weird coming from me, but I really am excited about Lauderdale Tropical Bear Week. And Hunter's Nightclub is set to sizzle this Thursday, April 10th, with the much anticipated Bear Cabaret. Grrr! Yeah, Will, I did it. As part of Lauderdale Tropical Bear Week. And so it's titled, To All the Men I've Effed Before. And the one night only spectacle will light up the Wilton Manors venue with doors opening at 7 p.m. and showtime at 8. Tickets start at just $30, promising a night packed with powerhouse performances and unforgettable moments. Hosted by the ever fabulous Jonathan Hawkins and me, FayWhat, and Eric Restivo. So the event will feature Jennifer McLean, who is just a godsend with that beautiful voice of hers, Lance Horn, who is awesome, Brian Justin Crum, who's a hottie, Yoli Mayur, who is just Cuban royalty, Matt Alber, who just has talent for days, Matthew Darren in that hair. Jonathan Casañas with that muscle bareness of his that we love. Miss Bouvier with all that talent. And Tammy Spank just spanking it up right now, doing her thing. For more details, visit LauderdaleTropicalBear.com for all the information. I can't tell you how excited I am about this. You know, Tropical Bear Week has come and made incredible strides here in our South Florida community. They sell out every year. Now it's called Lauderdale Tropical Bear Week, and Chuck King and the Eagle and the Bears and all of you folks are all doing all kinds of stuff, and it's going to be like 12 days, like all these kind of crazy events, from pool parties to fundraisers to dance parties to a cabaret. I mean, you name it, they have it going on.
That's right.
Well, it's like FayWhat and the Three Bears now, right?
There we go. What? That's a show. That's a show. Wait a minute.
Yeah, that's like a lot of fun.
That is going to be a lot of fun.
Yes.
And, you know, I mean, and they, you know, Jonathan puts together an incredible show. I can't wait for this. I'm wanting to see what's going to happen because all these incredible people that are on this show all can sing. And then there's me. So I'm interested in seeing how that's going to go, but you're going to have to show up this Thursday at Hunters so you can see for yourself. Get your tickets now.
Well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing. And Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at Lauderdale Tropical Bear Cabaret on April 10th.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm FayWhat, and let's queer up lesbian and queer women. Queer activists Maeve and Maryam Ravish face Taliban torture and execution risk. Two young LGBTQ activists named Maeve and Maryam Ravish were arrested by the Taliban last month while attempting to flee Afghanistan. The UK-based Peter Tatchell Foundation reports the pair now face possible torture or even execution. According to Namat Sadat, CEO of Afghan LGBT plus network Roshinaya, quote, they are expected to be tortured to reveal the names of other LGBTs and sentenced to a long jail term or possibly executed, end quote. The foundation is working to secure their release. According to the foundation, Maeve, a 23-year-old trans woman, and Ravish, age 19, had planned to board a flight to Iran on March 20th, along with Ravish's partner, Parwan Hussaini. But at the Kabul airport, Taliban intelligence officers detained them after finding queer content on their phones. Sadat said, quote, Maeve and Maryam were beaten by the Taliban, end quote. Hussaini, who did make it to Iran, says both her life and Ravish's have since been threatened by their own families. She also revealed that Maeve's family in Afghanistan has rejected support from Roshinaya. However, Maeve's sister in Michigan, Susan Battaglia, has pleaded for global health. Susan said, quote, my family in Afghanistan is very anxious about Maeve being tortured and killed. We ask world governments to demand that Maeve be released from prison and safely leave the country, end quote. Under Taliban rule, homosexuality is banned. Women must be chaperoned. Also, Maeve admitted to abandoning her religion, which can be punishable by death. Sadat is calling on global rights groups to act now and demand the release of both women before it's too late. You know, stories like this make me sad, and they're not going to be uncommon. You know, they're not going to be uncommon moving forward. The fact that you can go to an airport and it is okay for security to look through your phone. Okay, what's next? Can we look between your legs? What's going to be next? Right. You know, these poor women, these poor young women, they're in their early 20s.
Right. Yeah.
And now there's a high risk of them possibly not being on this earth anymore. Right. Now their families are also threatened. So now their families backlash, they don't want the backlash of this. So now they're, okay, we can't support you either. Mm-hmm. You know, so basically they're just left in this prison to be tortured and executed unless they give names of other LGBTQ people.
But if they do, they'll be kept there. Right.
It's very sad.
It's sad.
You know? And they made it that far to the airport and just almost make it to their freedom and be put back. It's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and we need more stories like this to expose what's going on in the world, to make the world know what's going on. We can't do this anymore. I mean, you know, this isn't the 1600s or, 5000 BC. This is, today's world where everybody should live in freedom.
Yeah, but I feel like we're taking 15 steps back every day, William. You know what I mean? Like, again, as a woman, I wasn't allowed to have my own checking account until the late 70s. As a woman, we weren't even allowed to vote until way after you folks were, Right. And then we look at stories like this where it's like they need to be chaperoned. Mm-hmm. Just saying that you're not a part of a religion is enough to get you to stay in jail and to maybe be killed on the basis of religion. We're killing people.
Right.
Yeah, it just makes us, like here in the U.S. we have freedoms. We have freedoms. We're able to actually be open. But in countries like that, even being an activist, you could just be taken at an airport,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very sad and it's unfortunate. These were activists, these were activists trying to actually advocate for LGBTQ causes, and they were tortured. I mean, it just makes us be more grateful here in the U.S. that we actually have the privilege to speak out.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about that earlier, you and I, about, in our country, we are privileged that we get to live how, we can express our lives how we want and be open about it.
For now.
But,
A lot of people don't have that.
They don't.
You know, I mean, and you're right, Vaughn. You know, we've got to stop and take a moment and go, okay, you know, right now, this is where my 2 feet are at, right? We're okay. We're allowed to be who we are. We're allowed to dress in big, ginormous dresses for no reason.
Exactly.
You know, and just have a great time doing it, you know, and other people aren't as fortunate,
right?
You know, and so we try to send good vibes their way. And I think about the family here in the States trying to fight everything tooth and nail to try to get attention for this. I hope that you get the attention that you need. We will continue to bring stories like this because they're important. Like William said, people need to know what's really happening out there. A lot of these news channels are just giving you smoke and mirrors, and you really don't know what's going on in other countries. You know, get yourself educated. Social media is actually good for that, to let you know what's really happening from the people who are living it. So that is the big LGBTQ story for today, and there is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ plus story for today. I'm Angel Martinez, and let's queer up politics. Trump-Musk tactics face ballot box blowback. Americans are revolting against the GOP at the ballot box. In a major upset in Wisconsin, Judge Susan Crawford, the progressive candidate in a nonpartisan state Supreme Court race, clinched victory with 54% of the vote. Her opponent, conservative Brad Schimmel, was backed by none other than Elon Musk, who spent a staggering $20 million on the race. That's including handing out 1 million prizes to voters. But it wasn't enough. The Wall Street Journal editorial board didn't hold back after the results, declaring, quote, "The MAGA backlash arrives," end quote. They called Crawford's win a, quote, "a warning to the GOP that the Trump-Musk governing style is stirring a backlash that could cost them control of Congress next year," end quote. Musk, who once said this election could decide, quote, "the future of America and the Western civilization," end quote, downplayed the result after the loss. Meanwhile, Democrats are gaining ground elsewhere too, flipping a Pennsylvania Senate seat in the pro-Trump county and forcing Republicans into tighter than expected wins in 2 Florida special elections. There's even buzz that Representative Elias Stefanik backed off a UN ambassador nomination due to fears of losing Republican seats. The Journal board summed it up saying, quote, "The MAGA majority may have a shorter run than advertised," end quote. With the House hanging on by a thread and voters rejecting Trump's second-term agenda, LGBTQ plus Americans and allies may be witnessing a turning tide. Yeah, I mean, you know, I knew this was going to happen. I mean, a lot of us knew that the backlash was going to happen, and it was going to happen fierce. I mean, a lot of voters, you know, are just voters like my dad. You know, these are Republicans, right, that are switching parties. They're switching parties to NPA, or they're just, you know, they're not voting, you know, for Republicans anymore. Like I see the momentum in places like Miami, where I'm from.
And that's like, you know, our last story. Another freedom we have is to vote. So every vote counts. So make sure you do go out and vote, because we need to get these wins.
Yeah, and another thing that we have is the ability to protest.
Yeah.
You know, and protests that were going on over the weekend were beautiful. They were beautiful to see. And in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, where your story is based out of, was one of the biggest crowds. And I had no idea those cheeseheads were all about, you know, going against Trump. I had no idea, you know, and that's the power. That's the power in numbers, you know, and it gives me hope. Is that okay to say? Right? It gives me a little bit of hope, because Elon couldn't buy this. All right. He tried to buy this election with $20 million. He even gave away $1 million, and yet he still couldn't clinch it. You know, that gives me hope that people are going to, you know, those people that stayed home, right? Because those are the people I'm mad at also. And that's my problem, that right now I'm not comfortable in straight places, right? Because I'm looking at, like, who did you vote for? Did you vote against me? Right? But it's also people that we sit with and we have bread with every single day that stayed home and didn't vote. And those people are also on the radar as well. Maybe now they'll go, okay, no, my vote is important. Yeah.
Yep.
Right? You know, my parents have lost 401ks, etc. Maybe it's time that I use my vote in the right way.
It's just, and like you said, this weekend was a great thing to see on social media and seeing all that happening. And to me, it just shows, like you said, it's the tide's turning, right? And it will take some while. It's not going to happen overnight. It can't. But I'm hoping for the positive.
We have to. And Trump and the maggots, they will downplay everything. You know, they will say like, you know, oh, Cory Booker, well, he was only on there 25 hours. That ain't shit. You know what I mean? Like they're, you know, or, oh, there was no one protesting. There were just hundreds of people. No, there were millions of people. And, you know, Cory Booker's an incredible human that was up there 25 hours and did his thing, you know?
Right.
That's the kind of protest that we need to follow and imagine and
get involved.
Whatever that looks like, you know, time, talent, and tithing. I'm constantly telling people that, you know, I don't have any money, then go give your time.
Right.
All right. You know, I don't have any time, but I'm a good writer. I'm a good freelance this. I'm a good graphic designer. Then go donate your time. But if you got the money, then give the money.
Yep.
It's also good to see momentum in Florida, places like Florida. I mean, those are very tight races, you know. I mean, they had good candidates, and, you know, I think the Democratic Party is picking up steam in places like Florida. I think we're starting to see momentum again.
Well, I hope so. From your lips to God's ears,
Yes.
Angel.
Yeah,
Because
God's
the Democrats, I'm not happy with them right now. We'll just say that, all right? That is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Vaughn Biggs, and let's queer up health. Viagra is 27 years old, and here is how it caused a sexual health revolution. It's been 27 years since a little blue pill quietly transformed how Americans talk about aging, sex, and health. In spring 1998, the FDA approved Viagra, making it the first oral medication to treat what we call erectile dysfunction, or ED. Before Viagra, ED was hardly discussed publicly, often buried in shame or brushed off as a joke. Alicia Walker, a sociology professor at Missouri State University, said, quote, "If I was to talk about it all, it was behind closed doors or joked about as part of an inevitable decline of aging. Viagra opened the door for these conversations," end quote. Originally developed to treat high blood pressure, sildenafil, Viagra's active ingredient, unexpectedly showed a different effect: erections within an hour. Pfizer recognized the opportunity, and by the end of 1998, Americans had spent nearly $788 million on almost 100 million pills. Viagra shifted the language and stigma, with former U.S. Senator Bob Dole leading its first ad campaign. The condition was reframed from impotence to medical term erectile dysfunction. That framing, Walker says, changed the tone of the entire conversation. Experts say Viagra's impact was broader than sex. It encouraged men to seek help. For LGBTQ viewers, Viagra's legacy also underscores how mainstream medicine can evolve to better address intimacy, health, and dignity. You know, I saw this story and I thought it was interesting, because when I think about as much work as I do with HIV, and when you talk about stigma, and I know my parents' generations, you never heard the conversation about sex. They didn't talk about sex at all. Now
or anything being wrong with
right,
male.
Right.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. So it's now seeing that, and I have hope that stigma has changed in that case, and now it's going to change for everything else with medication. Yeah.
Well, I mean, a great story,
Yeah.
Vaughn. Thank you so much for bringing it to our attention. I think that they just basically rebranded it, right? Because think about it, Bob Dole. It's like,
Yeah.
like really, like you don't want to think about Bob Dole and sex in the same sentence.
No.
You know what I mean? So they like turned that around and we're like, all right, erectile deficient. Oh, that doesn't sound good. Let's change that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like let's do that instead of, let's make it sound more medical than impotent. You
Right.
know,
Right.
because everybody was making fun of people being impotent during
Right.
that time.
Yep.
So so it makes sense. You know, it made things more mainstream to use this little blue pill.
Yes.
You know, that being said. That being said, from someone who doesn't have the right over her own body to decide if I have a baby or not, I don't think that insurance should cover it. Okay, that's just my own personal opinion, right? If I get pregnant, it's because God wants it. If your dick don't work, then maybe it's because God wants it too.
Yeah, that double standard.
That's not, you know.
I'm just saying.
I agree with you on that.
It's a double standard.
It's very, very big double standard. I love how the boys be quiet for that one. That is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm William Haas, and let's queer up gay culture. Let's discuss the red flags that show up after you've hooked. When we start dating someone, we all turn into the spot red flags. In those first 2 or 3 months, trust builds. We feel like we've made a solid choice. But here's the catch. Some of the most damaging red flags in queer relationships don't show up until we're already emotionally invested and probably moved in. Relationship experts have laid out some delayed red flags that often sneak in after the honeymoon phase ends. The red flags include your partners finding excuses not to work, saying vile things, or even isolating you from your chosen family. Many have serious anger issues, lie about their past, or talk badly about you behind your back. One red flag many overlook: when your partner tries to fix, train, or improve you. Such a behavior may signal manipulation and potential abuse. Another is spinelessness. If the partners can't express feelings and resorts to passive-aggressive pouting. Love should feel like home, not a battlefield. Thank you, Pat Benatar. When I read the story, like I said, I felt like Rosanna Dana, when you go to U-Haul, the first thing they should ask you is, not do you have a license, is have you been dating more than a year? Because if you've been dating more than a year, you're not getting a U-Haul. But seriously, I mean, I've faced some of that stuff, and some of the guys I've dated, I have more X's and O's, than whatchamacallit, tic-tac-toe. But it is really important to know that you need to be safe and you need to feel happy. And if someone's not making you feel happy in a loved relationship, then they're not the right person for you.
Yeah.
You need to move on. And it's one of the things that we do in our community is move in too fast, and we ignore the red flags because I'm in love and I found the one. And sometimes you need to wait and find out the real person is coming.
I hate getting old. I hate getting old. But one thing that I do love about being this particular age is that you already know what you don't want anymore. Mm-hmm. You already know what hasn't worked in the past, Because Faye in her 20s and 30s, I would see those red flags and paint them white. Mm-hmm. No, they're fine. Yeah. They're fine. They're not red. Yeah. They're not red. Big red flags. I want to, share your location. I want to know where you're at all the time. Oh. It's a big red flag, right? You're not going to share your location with me, but you want me to share my location with you. Big red flag, okay? Mm-hmm. Big red flag if somebody doesn't have friends of their own.
Right.
That's a big red flag. That means that they've probably had to move from friend group to friend group because of something that they've done. Big red flag, like you said, if they're trying to keep you away from your friends and family. That's a big one.
Or change the way you look and you act, and they're embarrassed to be with you.
They want to fix you.
Yeah, they want to fix you.
You're not a project.
Right. And I'm not broke.
Yeah, and I'm not broken. Yeah, but these are, treating servers like shit. There's a big red flag, and that's something that, I dated a girl I didn't even know, and months later we were at a restaurant. She was super rude to the server. I was like, oh no, I could never be with someone who treats hospitality wrong. I used to work in hospitality. I can't. And it's like the person's hot, the person's pretty, sex is good. Let me paint that red flag white.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to move slower, right? I've been, with relationships, and now it's one of the best things you can do is just move slowly. Mm-hmm. Just understand you're connecting with this person. It's it's a connection. You have to take it slow. I've been the red flag before. I probably some of my exes out there would say I'm a red flag. But, learning. You learn and you grow, and it's good that the community we start having these conversations, the open conversations on what we're looking for in a relationship, what we're looking for in a partner. Because these are conversations that need to be had.
And it's okay to make mistakes, because as long as you learn from them, because that's what life's about. Life's about learning.
It's learning from them, and especially down here in South Florida, right? I'm only going to speak about my people, my Latin people. We could be a little jealous.
Very jealous. We could be very jealous.
Okay, I was trying to not let people know that, Angel. Okay, we could be a little jealous, and that's a red flag. If you don't like that kind of stuff, but you're dating a really hot brown Latino, and you're like, I'll deal with the jealousy. Understand that later on, that red flag might be up your butt. Wait, you might like that. Well, it is. That is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Angel Martinez, and let's queer up trans rights. Trans women shut down Dr. Phil's anti-trans talking points on national TV. A powerful moment unfolded on Dr. Phil's talk show when a black trans woman, Blossom Brown, boldly pushed back against anti-trans rhetoric. In a conversation about transgendered athletes, Brown argued that trans people should be absolutely included in sports, reminding the audience that even cisgendered athletes have variations in body chemistry and bone density. She said, quote, "I think it's very dangerous when we put all women in a position to be tested to prove that they're not trans," end quote. Slamming former President Donald Trump's executive order banning trans athletes from women's sports, she continued, quote, "You're only signing for 0.0002 of the population. You are subjecting all women, whether they're cis or trans, to rigorous tests to prove that they're not trans in order for them to play," end quote. Dr. Phil countered, claiming trans athletes might threaten, but Blossom wasn't having it. She replied, quote, "Respectfully, Dr. Phil, I'm going to need you to have several seats. Trans women, again, are women. What you're showing me are male statistics, and trans women are not males," end quote. She called Dr. Phil for spreading conservative propaganda, saying he's, quote, "drunk the Kool-Aid and gotten lost in the sauce," end quote. After the episode, online support for Blossom started pouring in. This is why more people aren't watching sports, right? The sports, sometimes are not as inclusive to the LGBTQ plus community, and it's just very unfortunate. I think these clapbacks are necessary. They're necessary, to defend trans women, to defend, the transgender community in sports, right? That's like a big propaganda that's being spread. That's a big just. It's purposely trying to hurt our community, and I just don't think it's fair.
Now, if we started testing men to see if they're really men, we see how fast they get rid of all the testing, because most men don't want to be tested.
Yeah.
with or without the little blue pill. Yeah.
With anything. Listen,
Yeah.
Dr. Phil's an asshole. How about that? Okay. That's how I will say, all right? Dr. Phil is, yes, he's got a PhD in psychology, right? But he gave up his license in 2006. He is an entertainer. Okay. And right now he is definitely spreading misinformation. That's what he's doing. He's helping the right. He's doing the misinformation rhetoric that they want all of you to believe. That's basically what's happening. Dr. Phil allegedly beat his wife. He shouldn't be the one that we go to for information on trans rights, on trans lives, on the trans experience, on nothing LGBTQ plus. We should be going to Dr. Phil for some help.
He's no role model.
Anybody. He isn't.
No.
He isn't. So, yeah. And listen, Miss Blossom Brown, I'm following you, girl. I love when you told him, I'm going to need for you to take a couple seats.
Yeah.
I added a bad word after that in my mind. Okay. But you're a badass, and he needed that. He wasn't expecting for you to call him out on his shh. All right. And you did it so beautifully, and we commend you and we applaud you. Applaud. That is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm FayWhat, and let's queer up the USA view. Shocking study by King's College London reveals bias against asexuals. The world celebrated International Asexuality Day on Sunday. Against this backdrop, a new study out of King's College London is raising eyebrows across the LGBTQ plus community, especially among asexual people. The study, backed by asexual activist and model Jasmine Benoit, found that nearly a third of respondents believe asexuality can be cured through therapy. A finding Benoit says, while disturbing, didn't surprise her. She told LGBTQ Nation, quote, "I know that people will just come out and say all kinds of things about asexuality. They have no gauge of what is a bad thing to say about asexual people or what is acephobic," end quote. The study used a double-list experiment to minimize bias in responses, an approach rarely seen in asexuality research. Results revealed not just misunderstanding, but active discrimination. 27% said asexuals just haven't met the right person, and 30% said legislation shouldn't protect them. Benoit, the first asexual Grand Marshal of the New York City Pride in 2023, added, quote, "We don't even have hate crime law protection," end quote. She believes this lack of understanding is rooted in poor societal education and a dismissive queer and mainstream media. Quote, "We're still stuck on asexuality 101, end quote. With rising right-wing sentiments across the globe, Benoit warns, quote, Just because things start targeting one group doesn't mean they're not going to do the same things to other people. We see how the trans community gets weaponized. And now you're seeing that they're increasingly coming for the gay community as well. It's just going to keep going on and on. I guess it's that saying, there needs to be equality for everybody or there isn't equality for anybody, end quote. And right there is the sentence,
Yep.
right? Equality for all, not just for one, right? If you told anybody at this table, right? Better yet, I have been told that I have not met the right man and that's why I'm a lesbian, right? Idiotic comments, okay? Because I slept with plenty of men and you guys were boring, okay? A sandwich and a blowjob and you left me alone, all right? That was the actual truth. So she's got every right. Like, okay, when we were LGBT back in the day, right? Then we started saying that we were LGBTQIA+, right? We've got two-spirited individuals that are also part of our community. Add 15,000 other letters and I'm still going to say it because we've got to include everyone and that's just how it's going to be, right? So asexuality exists. You exist. You are important. You are part of our acronym and you should have the same protections as the rest of us do.
And everybody's rights should be respected, whatever your beliefs are.
And that's it.
Yeah,
But
plain and simple.
I'm kind of, I look at, we did this in the previous story about, transgender athletes. And it's just like, when you look at the population and like they said, some of the studies show only 1%, some show 0.4% of the population is asexual.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we focusing on such a small number other than the fact of being able to target them? And then and just knock them off from the bottom to the
Erasure.
top. Right.
Yeah, just erase
it's easy
them.
to bully them because they're such a small number.
Right.
Exactly, but that's the same thing towards our trans community.
Yeah,
They're 0.6%, and that's exactly why you go towards the lowest hanging fruit, and you try to erase them like they did to take when they, from Stonewall Monument, when they took the trans off that, I mean, you can try to erase us all you want. Doesn't mean that we didn't exist.
Right. Doesn't change our history. We'll remember it.
Anything, Angel?
Well, I mean, I just think it's important to memorize or remember Stonewall, right? Like the Stonewall movement and like the struggle that the community has faced, like asexual people, they have a right to have a seat at the table. They have a right to be heard, to be seen, to be respected, to be loved, and if they, it's unfortunate that, there's just not as much acceptance in our world. There's not as much acceptance in our country. We have people that are very, mean and, they engage in this type of bullying behavior.
But unfortunately, we have that in our community too sometimes. We all need to change that. It starts, from one-on-one on a table. Having coffee with somebody you don't know and listening instead of just talking.
Yeah. I mean, you will, I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to where it's like, oh, I just, I didn't know a trans person until I moved to Wilton. Right? You know what I mean? And then, you're afraid to have those conversations, but those uncomfortable conversations educate you. They help you for the next time that you meet somebody and you ask for pronouns or you do the right thing, I mean, we all weren't just born with all this. We've got to learn some of it.
Yep.
And there's no problem with making mistakes or anything like that. As long as you come back. Inclusivity is key at the end of the day. That's it. That is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Those are today's headlines from Queer News Tonight. These anchors represent the best of our LGBTQ and ally community.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow and then thrive, we must tell our stories and the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. This is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, FayWhat! And on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the incredible anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Von Biggs, William Haas, and Angel Martinez. Welcome, Angel. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ world, we hope that you will join us by embracing love, generosity, bravery, by being transformative and being queer. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.